Hi, and welcome to today's episode of The Supporting Actor. I'm your host, Adrienne Streeter, so let's jump right into it. Hi, and welcome to the first episode of The Supporting Actor. I'm Adrienne Streeter, your host, and I will be taking you on a phenomenal journey learning more about the supporting actor. But before we get started, let's talk about what the supporting actor is and isn't. I'll start with the latter. So, what we are not is we are not a resource if you are looking to get into the industry as an actor, whether you live in LA, Atlanta, New York, London, or somewhere in between. We are not a resource for the entertainment industry. However, what we are a resource for parents, caregivers, and guardians of children who were born or developed a disability later on in life. You are the supporting actor to their journey. And so we want to create and make a space for you as the parent, caregiver, or guardian for you to talk about what's important to you, what's been difficult, how can we support you, how can we as a community support you, how can the society support you, and better yet, how can you support your child and your child or children's needs. So how did I come about this idea? You guys are asking some real good questions. So in 2014, my husband and I, Douglas, welcomed our very first daughter into the world. When I was about 19 weeks pregnant, um, because I was an older pregnancy, as they called me, a geriatric pregnancy, I was beyond 35. Shame on you, medical industry, for calling me geriatric. Anyway, I had a lot of checkups. And around 19 weeks, I had my first ultrasound. And that ultrasound yielded to the doctors at the time, or the doctors saw that my daughter, Ari Elizabeth, was going to be born with spinal bifida. They set us down and told us that there was a 96% chance that when she was born, her intestines, her organs were going to be outside of her body, that she had a hole in the base of her spine, and that they didn't know if she would live a long time after birth. And so they basically told my husband and I that we needed to make a decision, because in the state of South Carolina at that time, 20 weeks was the cutoff to terminate a pregnancy. And so they gave our daughter a 4% chance of not being born with spinal bifida because of what they were seeing in the ultrasound. One of the telltale signs was that she had bilateral club feet. And basically, that means both of her feet were turned inward and upward towards the heart. Typically, a child is born with one club foot, but to have both and to see some of the other things that they saw in the ultrasound made me not only a geriatric high risk pregnancy, but now this elevated my status. And so my husband and I talked, and we made the decision to continue with the pregnancy and to deal with whatever was going to happen when she was born. She was born, and she didn't have spinal bifida. She was in the 4%. She didn't have spinal bifida, and in fact, all of her organs and her intestines and everything inside of her was intact, and she didn't have a hole in her spine as they saw on the ultrasound. But she did have club feet. She did have bilateral club feet. And so this started a journey for us that we're still walking through. We still are in the process of living a journey of parents who are supporting a child that was born with what's classified as a disability. And being first time parents was stressful enough. There are stressors that with any newborn, lack of sleep, you just don't know what you're doing, you don't know why the kid's crying, you don't know if they're hungry, you're trying to get used to it, and a million other reasons why being a first time parent is hard. You've never done it. You are going from being this single person to now caring for another life. But we went from being a single couple, not single, but a couple, two single individuals, to now not only caring for this life, but caring for this life that now has a disability that we now need to figure out how to navigate. I can't even begin to tell you how we got through that. I just literally, the grace of God got us through that period. Um, so when she was born, they decided to give her 2 weeks, and then we were going to take 8 weeks to cast her to see if we could get her bones, because they were thinking her bones, she's still malleable, she's still very young. We would get her bones to basically set in the position they wanted her to be set in. And so for 8 weeks, every week for 8 weeks, we took her down to the hospital and they cut the cast off. And she had a cast from the bottom of her foot all the way up to her diaper. And you're talking about challenges of just changing a diaper because you've never done it before, but now changing a diaper and making sure that there no poop gets on that diaper at the top, because it's going to stay there for a week if you get it there, because you can't go get your cast changed for another week, y'all. Anyway, so we went through that, and after 8 weeks of casting, she didn't have any improvement, so surgery was needed. And at this time, because surgery was needed, they took her in and they cut her Achilles tendon to elongate her feet and to set them, overcorrect them in the position they wanted them to be. Then they put her in what was called a Ponseti brace, where her feet were turned out and there was a bar in between her feet. She was like this for 18 months. And so, because she was like this for 18 months, she developed how to walk late. She definitely learned how to crawl. She would hold her feet up and wiggle around. But there were some things that, from a developmental standpoint, she didn't do in terms of milestones, because she had to stay in these brace for 23 hours a day until she was 18 months old. So we had challenges. And throughout that time, we had to learn medical terms we didn't know. We had to learn where were the best doctors? Should I be getting a second opinion? Who can I turn to for this? No one in my family had ever been through this. And so here we are now trying to figure out what we could afford as first time parents, what's included in our insurance, what does her physical therapy look like, are there communities out there that can support us, how do we navigate this? As a theater major, I will tell you, I never thought that I was going to learn as many medical terms as I have learned, but I needed to learn those things. I needed to Google and research and find out the questions to ask, because my child couldn't talk. So I was her advocate. My husband is her advocate. We had to be her advocate and really make sure that the decision that we were making was the best for her. But we lacked support in terms of community. Who's been through this before? How do you navigate this? How do you find resources? I became a researcher overnight. I became not only a researcher, but just thinking of things like daycare, beyond daycare, school. What does school look like? How do you support your child going to school after they've had surgery? And what does missing so many days in school look like because you've had to go through physical therapy 3 times a week? And What happens when your job doesn't give you enough physical therapy in your medical insurance, and now you're paying thousands of dollars out of your pocket because your child needs to be able to walk, breathe, live, whatever it is that pertains to you. You are your child's supporting actor. You are your child's advocate. You are your child's everything. Your child is on a beautiful journey where they are the star of the show and you are their supporting actor. And so, as a parent of a child who was born with a disability, who has had many, many, many surgeries. At the time of this recording, my child, 8 years old, is in a brace in her right leg from her ankle all the way up to her thigh. We're still dealing with so many other things because she just had yet again another surgery. I want to create a space for parents, caregivers, guardians to know that they have support, that there are resources, that there are people who are like you or you need to learn from that will help your journey to support you, support your child. So the supporting actor is all about family. It's all about what can we do to help you help your child or children if you have multiple children. And speaking of multiple children, we want to have that discussion. What does it look like to have a child that has a special need and you have siblings, or the child has siblings that do not? How do you navigate parenting one child differently? Or how do you navigate traveling? How do you navigate life when this child may get a little bit more attention or maybe a lot more attention depending on what the child's circumstances are? How do you navigate this? How do you get a child who, as the world sees it, is born normal, whatever normal is, because we all have something. It just may not physically manifest itself in the outward appearance. And I'll tell you, I have dyslexia, so you can't see that in me, but it is classified as a disability. So we all have something, whether it's emotional, whether it's mental, whether it's physical. We want to create a space where we can have guests come on, talk about their journey, talk about the resources that they've learned so that we can share those resources with you to help you on your journey. We want this to be a two-way conversation. We want positive comments below. It's not about being negative. It's about us really supporting one another. So I welcome you and I thank you for joining us on our journey as we continue to support our daughter, Ari Elizabeth, and our youngest, Catherine Rowe, and our entire family and your family on your journey, on our journey together as we are the supporting actors. So I want to thank you and I want to let you know, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so that when we start to upload new content in the next couple of weeks, you will get a notification if you also hit that bell, and reminded that we have a new guest, new content, a new resource, a new person in our community that we're going to just gird up, support, and extend love and grace to. So I'm looking forward to having many, many wonderful conversations, hopefully a lot of laughter. There may be some tears, and that's okay too. I can't tell you the amount of times I've cried because I felt like I was at a roadblock and something happened and the obstacle cleared itself, or we figured out how to get around it. So if there's some tears here, so be it. We're on this journey together. And I thank you for joining us on this journey as we support all of our parents around the world who have children with special needs. You are the supporting actor. So stay tuned. In July, mid-July, we have our first audience or our first guest. She's very dynamic. I can't wait for you to hear her story. But in the meantime, feel free to share this out. Let's get the word out that the Supporting Actor podcast is now live, and we are here to make sure that your journey is supported and very, very needed. All right, you guys, until the very next time, take care of not only yourselves, but of each other. All right, take care. Bye.